such events. But like I was pointing out, it's going to be very interesting to see how the domestic institutional investors, what they actually decide to do. Vijay Iyer had broken a story of how LIC may actually abstain from this. I'm going to take this conversation now forward with Monish. She's joining us here in our Noida studio. Good evening, Monish. Thank you so much for taking the time out and joining us here. TCS, one of the easiest EGMs to go down as far as Tata Sons goes, because they have more than a 70% stake, but clearly the other EGMs are not going to be that easy. So earlier in the day, perhaps why we saw Tata Sons increase its stake in Tata Motors via block deals. Apparently it is the owner of the block deals that went through, the buyer of the block deals of 5 crore shares. Are you expecting more action like that going forward, where Tata Sons is going to look to increase its stake in the various Tata Group companies?
Well, we definitely have a significant issue at hand, which is increasingly threatening to escalate beyond conceivable proportions. Now, let me address this in two specific parts. When you look at the legality of what has been taking place, the way in which the events have unfolded, there is nothing to suggest that there's been a breach of the laws. Shareholders are directors appointed by the shareholders in accordance with the provisions of section 149 and 152. And a director can be removed by the shareholders in accordance with the provisions of section 169. If I shift the focus to the other two aspects, which I think are perhaps a little more relevant to the question that you've asked, which is the moral and the ethical framework, the real driver here has to be what is best to unlock the true value for the shareholders and the stakeholder community at large. And in this context, it is certainly not healthy to expect there to be a persistent conflict between a promoter and a significant promoter group and the chairman of the board.
But Monish, the Shapoorji Pallonji Group in Tata Sons own what, an 18% stake. They're not just any other shareholder, they have a large stake.
They have a large stake, but at the same time, you have to look at what is best in the interests of the stakeholder community at large. So you've got the Tata Sons, you've got the Tata Trust, who also occupy a very large share of the pie. The way in which the events have really unfolded, I think the biggest learning has been that the chairman of the main holdco should not necessarily assume the role of the chairman of an operating company simply because he has or is the chairman of the main holdco.
Yes, perhaps that's one of the biggest lessons that are out there for conglomerates, especially the one where the holdco is also owned by trust. Monish, what's very interesting is that what we're getting information from the EGM at the moment is how Aman Mehta, one of the independent directors, is actually responding to the various shareholders' queries. So it's going to be interesting to see. We till today don't know what exactly happened between Cyrus Mistry and Ratan Tata, except Ratan Tata saying it was a total breakdown in trust. We still don't know. It'll be interesting to see if we get that information from one of the EGMs. What is the sense that you're getting? What do you think an LIC, a UTI, the large domestic institutional investors, do you think they're likely to abstain, or do you think they're going to proactively participate in all of these EGMs?
This particular stage, the opinions are largely divided. It's a very uncertain environment. A lot depends on how the real main issues are handled behind, I would say, are not left to the public domain. It's very easy for people to draw conjectures. What really has been happening is that this is not something that has happened all of a sudden. Certainly there has been a conflict that has been brewing for a while. What we've really seen is a duck over the water, very calm on the surface, but there has been vigorous batting going on beneath, which has been going on for quite some time. So I'm sure the communities that you've referred to, the institutional investors, have been aware that something like this could potentially happen. So no one really should take shelter behind the fact that, we were not prepared for it. It's just that the ultimate driver has to be what's in the best interest for the stakeholder community, and how do you resume the confidence of the larger shareholder group to be able to get on with business.
When we do that, let's just remind our viewers of the other EGMs that are going to take place. You're going to have Indian Hotels on the 20th of December. You're going to have Tata Steel on 21st, followed by Tata Motors on 22nd. Tata Chemicals on the 23rd, and the last of them is going to be the 26th. At this juncture, I would also like to remind our viewers, and I'm going to ask my producers to show that